So we've seen that we can have lots of different kinds of views in a Revit project: plans, sections, elevations, 3D views. And one of the most powerful reasons to use so many different views is that you can actually edit your model from any view that you like. When you're working in Revit, you're working in a single unified building model. Everything's stored in a single project and it's all connected to one another. So if it's more convenient for you to make an edit in plan, you can do it in plan. If you'd rather do it in elevation, you can do it in elevation. And you can do so without any worry that you'll have to then go and redo the same modification in some other view. This is because these are not disconnected drawings. Rather, they are views of the same unified building model. So you make a change in one view, it changes everywhere. To illustrate that, let me go ahead and open up a couple different views here. I'm in a file called Edit Any View, and I'm currently in the Level 1 floor plan. I'm also going to open up the east elevation, the axonometric, and the door schedule. So one of the ways you can tell which views you have currently open is to use this drop-down right here, which will show you all of the views that are currently open. So I can see that I have those 4 windows that we just double-clicked. Now what I want to do is actually tile them all together on screen. So I'm going to close this drop-down, come over here to the View tab, and then over here on the right, I'm going to click Tile Windows. That will tile all the windows on screen. I'm going to click into any one of the graphical windows and choose Zoom All to Fit. Now I'm going to fine-tune a few of these, zoom in a little bit more on the 3D view, zoom in a little bit more on the plan view, and a little bit more on the elevation view. And I'm just doing the wheel for that. Okay, so let's look at a really simple example. I can see here that I've got this really big blank wall here in the east elevation. You can see it also here in the 3D view. It wouldn't really be very easy to do something about that from the floor plan that I currently have open, but there's no reason why I can't do something about that using the elevation. So what I'm going to do is click here to the left of the last window and drag to the right. Now, the one thing you've got to notice here is it's highlighting a bunch of stuff beyond. So I'm going to show you a trick there for selection that I haven't talked about yet. But I'm going to first make the rough selection here, and you see that I've highlighted all 6 windows. Now, in addition to the 6 windows, I got some other stuff, and you can kind of see it in the plan view. I got some tables, I got some countertops. Heck, I even got the stair way in the background. Clearly, I don't want to copy all of that stuff. I only wanted to copy the windows. Well, if you look over here on the properties palette, you can get some feedback as to what you have selected. It says common and then 20. Now, common means that of the 20 items you have selected, these are the properties they have in common, and it's basically nothing. Up here on the ribbon is a filter button. This is a really useful command. It allows you to make a big selection of stuff that you want, too many things, in this case, 20 things when I only wanted 6. You click Filter, and then you can clear the checkboxes for all the categories you're not interested in selecting. So I'm going to check None. That's going to clear all the checkboxes, and then instead I'm going to select only the Windows checkbox, and notice the quantity is 6, which is exactly what I want. So it will deselect all of those other elements, and now I can copy these windows with confidence. So I'm going to go to Copy, pick a base point, and then move up to where I want that copy to go. And I'm in the multiple copy, so I'm actually going to click twice to make 2 sets of copies. And then I'll cancel out of the command. Notice that the change is instantly reflected not only in the east elevation, but also in the 3D view. So that's a really simple example. Let's look at another example. Over here in the schedule, I noticed that this door number 5, which is this door right here, I'm going to zoom in on that and plan a little bit. That door over there is just this simple little single swing door, and that's going into the kitchen area, so it probably ought to be a double door, and it probably ought to be a door that can swing in both directions. So I've got the wrong type of door there, but I can identify it here in the schedule and even select it here in the schedule, and then if I click over here in the floor plan, it stays selected. And now I can just open up the list and choose the appropriate type door. So here I've got a door called Double Flush Double Acting. This is from the standard Imperial folder that ships with the software. And you can see that I can choose that double door, and now the change is reflected both in the plan and directly on the schedule. The schedule now reports the new size for that door. Let me open up another view and show you another example. Here's this dining from above 3D view that we created in the last movie. Now I'm going to take this view and adjust it slightly so that it takes up maybe half of the screen here. And let's take a look at these columns here. Notice that all those columns stop a little bit short of the ceiling, and what you're seeing is the steel that's inside of them, and that may be a little bit unsightly for your main dining room. So what I want to do is change the height of those columns so that they go all the way up. Certain edits you can do in any view, depending on the kind of edit that you want to do. You can't do things like move and copy and rotate directly in a perspective view. Notice those buttons are grayed out. If I was in a plan view, all those buttons become available. So if they're grayed out, you can use the perspective view to make the selection, and then you can switch over to a plan. But it turns out that whether or not I'm in perspective or plan doesn't make a difference for what I want to change, because what I want to change is here on the properties palette. If you look, there's a base constraint, level 1. This column starts down at level 1. There's a top constraint, level 2, and that's the problem. It's only going up to level 2. I'm going to make it go all the way up to the roof. Now, the trouble with that is, watch the top of the column when I apply that. It's going to go up through the ceiling all the way to the roof level, so now it's a little bit too tall. Let me zoom in just a little bit here to show you. I could come over here and further modify it by putting in a top offset. I'm going to put in -4 feet, and when I apply that, it pulls it down to just underneath the ceiling. Let's go ahead and deselect it, and you can see the final result. So this is yet another example of where you can identify a problem, make the selection, and make an edit in one view. It's reflected in any view. So let me show you that again here. It might be easier to select a couple columns in the plan view, and then we'll be able to see the change interactively in the 3D view as we work. So to do that, I'm just going to click on one of these columns, hold down my Control key, and click the second column. And you can see both of those square columns that we're looking at there in the 3D are highlighted now. I come over here to the Properties palette, put them up to the roof, and then set the negative top offset. And when I apply that, you're going to see that those two columns will extend up in the same way as the round one did. So a big advantage of working in a Revit model is that you're actually working on a model. So any change you make, plan, section, or elevation, applies everywhere to all views. You don't have to make the same change over and over again in multiple separate and disconnected drawings. You make the change once in the view that's most convenient, and it automatically takes care of itself everywhere else throughout the model.